And how is it going, everybody? Welcome to the Paws Up Preview. As I am Jay Gibson alongside my friend and co host Kevin Barral. And Kevin, the suffering continues. Come on, that's not the way to start this preview. But I mean, it's been a rough few weeks for the Panthers, Kevin. 3 straight losses. Things could be going a lot worse. Or a lot better, I should say. But still, it's a new day. It's a new week. It's a new opponent. Uh, are the vibes still a little bit up in the air? They're a little high, just not as high as say a few weeks ago, coming off that Louisiana Tech win.
Yeah, I mean, it starts to feel pretty good at the moment. If everything goes well, we're going to see an FIU win up until the end of the season. Now, we'll talk about that soon, but
Woo!
yeah, exactly. And it starts with New Mexico State, a team that's struggled a lot this season. Obviously, a lot of turnover over there. No Eli Stowers. Star Thomas is gone. I believe his name is Jonathan Brady's gone. Diego Pavia is gone. He almost beat Texas today. Alabama, he beat them not too long ago. Jerry Kill now at Vanderbilt. So there's a whole new squad over there. You have Parker Awad at quarterback, Santino Marucci. You have Deuce Hogan. Now you have Seth McGowan. His name is Jake Washington, and Tony Sanchez as your head coach. So it's a completely different team, although it definitely
ball game.
a lot of the same stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see what happens, but the vibes run high. Obviously, I think I would say that. I feel like the pressure is on. And I think the players and even Coach McIntyre knows that. We spoke to him post-game after it, and I asked him, feel any pressure? And obviously, he says, yes, there is pressure because they want to make a bowl game. They know they can make a bowl game. Now it's just a matter of, do you win out, or what case and worst case scenario if you do lose a game?
At least now the scenario is straightforward. There's no maybe, there's no this or that. What FIU needs to do for the rest of the season is just one thing, and it's to win out. If you don't win out, the season's a bust. If you do win out, you're looking to get into a nice bowl game. So at least that's been made easy following this string of losses. But Kevin, sometimes we're used to blowout losses on FIU's part, but these last few weeks it's been blood pressure boiling, stress inducing 1-score losses to teams like Sam Houston, Liberty. I know the UTEP game was a 9-point win technically, but it still feels like a 1-score loss. You know what I mean? It's been stressful to watch, and that goes for their most recent game, a 10-7 loss. Kevin, for the longest time, this was like one of those boring games I have ever had the displeasure of watching, and it was nationally televised too. ESPNU game, and they put up 17 combined points.
Yeah, I mean, not fun. I think there's no other way to put it. Defense really played well. I think there's no other way to put it. They shut them out in the first half. And obviously, Sam Houston shut FIU out in the first half. But, I mean, it came down to one thing, and it was on special teams. Sam Houston made an absolutely awesome block, which set up the field goal, the touchdown there, and eventually FIU's defense had to settle for a field goal. I know we could blame FIU's defense all we want for that final drive, but a lot of this does go back to the offense, where I know they didn't have Kewan Jenkins and they had Chaden Peary, but this is the same Houston team that seemed like they were really struggling to stop FIU. And I did like what FIU was doing, putting the running back out as a wide receiver and bringing him in last second, kind of keeping Sam Houston a little bit off guard. But and then the jet sweeps weren't working again, like we saw maybe against Liberty and even UTEP a little bit. So that wasn't going too good. And I don't know. I mean, the offense obviously took a hit without Kewan, and Kewan just wasn't performing. So they made a change there at quarterback, and they went with Chaden Peary, who made his collegiate debut. And he was fine. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. He was fine. He kept him in it. Had a huge play in there in the first play of the fourth quarter. Huge moment in that game. And fortunately just came up short. And, that was one of those games where you kind of had to win just to say, look, we made up for the loss against UTEP. There's still one more game we could lose. That would have been Jack State. And then that's when you kind of talk about let's win out. Let's win out against Kennesaw and Middle Tennessee, where you go 6-6 and you're in a bowl game. But
that win would have made up for a lot of games.
Unfortunately for FIU, they have a long way to go.
I know. I want you to clarify something, by the way, Kev. A lot of people thought that when they took out Jenkins for Peary, it was due to some sort of injury. He's not injured. As a matter of fact, you spoke Mike McIntyre. He's 100% good to go for this game.
Yeah, I still ask myself how much of it was due to the injury, the game. You know, his lack of how bad he was. No offense, I mean he could tell you that himself. He was bad. That's by far his worst outing as a college football player. I know Jack State wasn't very good either, but overall, I do ask myself just how much of the injury was involved with that. It was a very, very short week. And obviously, Hunter Watson didn't even play. So you got to ask yourself, was Keywan even meant to be out there? And obviously, I think the trainers knew he was fine. He could go. They obviously did their testing, but I don't know. I mean, when we were talking to Chaden said he was very limited throughout practice, Keywan, that is, and that they even told Chaden that he may be coming into this game against Sam Houston. And obviously, he did come in towards the end of that second quarter, the last drive of the first half of the game. So I don't know, but Keywan's now 100% healthy, no pain, no nothing. He's going to be starting against New Mexico State. Same thing with Amari Jones, who will be the backup, with Chaden Peary. We may be seeing those two guys at some point, I think, just in some certain play packages. We know McIntyre really hasn't done that a lot at FIU, but we saw a lot of run design plays for Chaden, and those we didn't see those with Keywan. We didn't see those with Amari Jones. We saw those with Chaden Peary, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see him at some point. New Mexico State in the conference this season has been the worst run defense in the team on the conference. So, I mean, to be honest with you, FIU is literally 8th. They're 10th. So, not that much of a drop-off. But, yeah, definitely we'll see what happens. Keywan obviously healthy. I think he kind of got to take over that passing game a little bit as well. This is a New Mexico State team that is also – not very good against the pass, only 6th in the conference. FIU, the best pass defense in Conference USA. I think you got to hang the banner when the season's over for that one. So we'll see what happens with Keywan. I think he has a really good chance to bounce back. This is not a good New Mexico State team. No. FIU is favored by 10.5, which
that's crazy.
Everyone saw coming, especially at home on Sun Blazer night. Very excited for that. So
yeah. I love those decals they put on the helmets. Those little Sun Blazer logos, they look clean. Would you say, Kevin, that FIU's rush defense has progressively gotten just a tick better as the season has gone on? Only 131 rushing yards for Sam Houston the other night. That was the biggest weakness of FIU, period, I thought. And it really they made Sam Houston's rushing attack okay, but compared to everything else, kind of a non-factor. I'd say they're getting a tick better as the season's going on.
It was better. I would say it was better, but it hasn't gotten better throughout the season. I can't say that. I mean, you gave up 211 rushing yards to UTEP, which was one of the worst rush offenses in the conference. And who knows what they're going to do against Kennesaw State, who just came off a win against Liberty. And I mean, dude, who else did they play? Let's see. I mean, that's really bad. Jack State, they're going to play them next week, or not next week, in a couple weeks.
Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee is a team that doesn't run the ball very well. They're actually the worst rush offense in the conference. And Kennesaw is 7th. Kennesaw now has a better rush offense than FIU according to the stats. So that just shows you not just how much the running game has taken a step back for FIU, but yeah, I mean, FIU needs to stop the run. I think there's no other way to say it. They need to stop it, especially against New Mexico State. 4th best rush offense in the conference. They have Seth McGowan. I believe his name is James Washington as well. 2 really big backs. At least for college football, they're big guys. I mean, I think he's 6'2", 220, and 6 foot, 215. I mean, those are pretty big running backs. So, and Seth McGowan is no joke. That guy was I believe, a 4-star guy coming out of Oklahoma. He transferred after some issues. So he's a good player, and FIU is going to have to really game plan to stop him. And thankfully, you have Travion Barnes and Elijah Anderson Taylor to kind of help you out with that. But you're going to need a big game from guys like Quaylen Hill, Jeremy Passmore, even a Keegan Davis and Eddie Walls to kind of stop that. And Steven Shannon, as well as some depth that they have that should help.
Yeah. So overall, just really want to see Keywan Jenkins play a full game, because it's been a hot minute now since Jenkins has played a full 60 minutes of football, which sucks. But I get it. I understand why McIntyre pulled the move. Jenkins was not looking good, and I hope that against one of the worst defenses in Conference USA that he's gonna finesse the system and he's gonna look really good, because if FIU wants to take this momentum to their upcoming 2-game road trip, which I think you have some news to share about that, Kevin, but just in a sec, if FIU wants to have some momentum to take into this upcoming 2-game road trip, it needs to start with not just a good win against New Mexico State, but a solid win, because everyone is down on the Panthers right now, except for the sports bettors, which is funny, except for Las Vegas. But still, there have been better days for this FIU squad, and regardless of how they get the win against New Mexico State, it can give them some momentum as they head to both Jacksonville and Kennesaw. But obviously, between you and me, Kevin, I want to see them expose a defense like they did against Central Michigan. And I think that's the mission at this point. Just I don't want to see another 10-7 game, Kevin. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is when you kind of look at the season, you look at opportunities, and we're talking about this a little bit. I mean, I had a doubt with most games this season. Obviously, each for their own reason. I feel like this one with New Mexico State, it's just hard for me to doubt anything about this team that they're going to win. Like, I don't see New Mexico State really doing much in this game. Now, we're going to talk about them a little more. They've had a little quarterback controversy just due to injuries mainly. I know Marucci had some injury, had a concussion, and then there was another one. I think Parker Nunez, who was also in a concussion protocol. It was either him or Parker Awad. I know there's multiple Parkers on that team. So but it looks like Awad should be the starter. Maybe some saying Tino Marucci in there as well. I mean, and Coach Mack was talking about Parker Nunez, I believe is his name. He's a huge guy. He's really big. Like I'm just going to confirm his name's Parker Nunez for New Mexico State. Because I want to make sure I have that name right. It's Brandon Nunez. There we go.
Nunez.
He's 6'5", 220-pound senior quarterback. I'm sorry. Huge guy. So, yeah, that's going to be someone that they're going to have to try to stop.
A lot of unproven faces on that squad, regardless of who the hell they want to go with come Tuesday night. By the way, I'm just going to say this now, Kevin. The midweek games were fun to start. I'm getting a little tired of them now as the season continues to go on. I'm starting to feel thankful this is going to be the final midweek game of the season for the Cats. What say you?
I didn't mind it. It did get a little tiring towards the end. I will say, like this one, I'm glad we had a week off in between for this one. But that stretch going from UTEP to Sam Houston was definitely a tough one because the game was on Tuesday or Wednesday? That was a Wednesday game, I want to say.
Yeah.
Then you had the other game on Tuesday, and obviously, Conference USA definitely has hit it out of the park with the midweeks. I mean, people are watching them. There's no other
lots of eyes on them. Unfortunately, they had to witness that game.
Kennesaw Liberty game had a lot of eyes.
A lot.
The Ice game obviously had a lot of eyes, but you kind of look at it and it's just like, geez, it does get a little tiring. I'm glad we're going to go back to the Saturday games, and not even that. I mean, FIU is going to get a nice little break. They don't play after this until I want to say November 15th or 16th against Jack State, and then after that, it's a 2 p.m. start, it's a 3 p.m. start, and then another 2 p.m. to finish the year, which I'm not against. A little
that's fine.
Time. We get to go home around 9 p.m. I'm not against it, and then hopefully we'll see what selection for the bowl game comes if FIU does end up winning out.
That's a big if. That is a huge if. And
I'll say this: Coach Mack deserves some sort of extension if they win 4 in a row.
You know what? I'll agree with you there. And you know what? I think Coach Mack realizes this. He's going to have the team ready to play more than they ever have in a while against New Mexico State because of the severity of what losing that game would do. Not just the fact that, you lost at home for the second straight week, but your bowl chances are completely gone. Then you have to go take on Jacksonville State, who, if you're going to lose to New Mexico State, you're probably going to get blown out by Jacksonville State. I'm sorry, but that's probably what would happen. So, the only good thing about that Sam Houston game, the uniforms. They look nice. They looked good in the trailers. They looked good in the photos. When you see them in person, they look even nicer. Yeah, we got to hop in the boat, by the way. That was sick. We both had
you got in post game. I got you in their post game, but pre-game I had my little boat video actually kind of went a little viral.
Yeah. I did see that. Oh, before I forget, I want to shout out someone. As I'm sure most of you know, the equipment team at FIU was super kind enough to hand me a helmet, which was awesome. However, they gave me a bunch of decals to put on it, and I was like, I kind of suck at putting decals on stuff, but I know someone who's pretty good. And that is Danny Moss, a loyal member of Section 112. And look what he did to my helmet. Oh, my gosh. First of all, this is like my favorite decal ever. The American full FIU logo. I'm an old head. Center stripe, little bumper here, Huge American flag. Even the warning label's new. Not to mention these little good job little Paws stickers here. They don't even do those anymore. Little 305 thing here at the front, and he even added some new padding right here on the sides. Oh my good gosh. So shout out to Danny Moss. He does great work. You can actually buy decals and helmets from him, and they're all high quality. So just wanted to give him a shout out. He does great work. And then he even made us some personal Paws Up podcast decals. Kevin, you have one over there on your wall. So he does great work.
Here, you can't see, but I added it.
Yeah. Your Marlins bobbleheads are blocking him, but your Jazz Chisholm, I just lost in game 1 bobblehead. It's kind of blocking, but
man, there's no Jazz on here, so
yeah. All right. So anyway, shout out Danny. He's a cool dude. He makes great stuff. So go check out his work. So final thoughts from that Sam Houston game, Kevin. The defense, I think, had their best game since Louisiana Tech, which was also a great performance. But just once again, the defense has been bailing the offense out, but the offense has just not been doing the same for like these last few games. And it's infuriating. And I think that's been the biggest problem this season so far for the Panthers. And it's just disappointing that once again we're going to have a stressful conclusion to the season where if we get to 6 wins or not, it's going to come down to the wire, kind of like how it did last year. Then we had to go to Arkansas, and that kind of ruined everything.
Yeah, at least this year it's a little different. I think with what's left in the season, this one obviously FIU is now favored. Jack State, I really doubt it. Kennesaw and Middle Tennessee should be favored. So you got to look at it and you got to tell yourself, you just squeezed by Jacksonville State, who, by the way, I'm gonna look make sure I'm like right about this. I think they're the best scoring team in the league. Yeah, they're putting up 39.7 points per game. So that team is no joke. They're a great scoring offense, and they're actually a pretty decent scoring defense. They're 6th. FIU actually puts up more points than them on the defensive side of things. But I mean, we're not going to preview them too much. But I mean, you look at the leaders right now in Conference USA. Tyler Huff has 654 rushing yards. Trey Stewart for Jack State, who's coming from, I believe, Division II, 682 yards. On the passing side of things, it's still Kiwan towards close to the top. And then you have Tyler Huff, 4th in passing yards. Receiving yards, I don't think really that there's many Jack State guys actually even there. It's Cam Vaughn. That's about it. So, I mean, I think we're obviously going to talk about it more, but Jack State is a very rush-heavy team. So, yeah. I hope they beat them. I hope they beat Kennesaw for reasons outside of the game itself, but we'll get into that later.
I think let's get into it, Kevin. You have some news to share about the 2 upcoming road games for FIU in Jacksonville, Alabama, and Kennesaw. What's the news, Kevin?
I'll be there.
Oh my gosh, you're making the trip with the team to Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. You're getting that road coverage, getting some stadiums.
Getting the charter flight, baby.
Oh my gosh. You get to experience, so what for the Jacksonville State game, you're going to the Birmingham airport maybe. For Kennesaw, you're going to the Atlanta airport. I know that. And
I don't know, because I think with chartered planes, it's a little different. I think we can just go straight to the spot. I do think that for Kennesaw, it will be Atlanta. I'm not sure. But for Jack State, I think we're going right to Jack State. So
you're going to be down in Atlanta, bro. That's cool. So
hey, man,
congrats, Kevin. That should be super sick. Give us some good coverage.
It is cool to tell yourself I will be at every single FIU game left this season.
Oh my god!
I wasn't there in person were UTEP, Liberty, and Indiana.
Yeah. Well, hopefully
next year, hopefully I'm at all of them.
Hopefully you're going to see some.
Got Penn State next year, and UConn. FAU obviously comes to Miami, so it should be fun.
You know what I was thinking when it was announced that you were going to go to that Kennesaw game? I sure hope Kennesaw doesn't have a win, or they do have a win before that game, because I know you would be just looking to the heavens if you had to witness a field rush if Kennesaw won their first game against FIU. Now you don't have to worry about that.
I'd be running with them.
Okay. All right, let's dive a bit more into our opponent, the New Mexico State Aggies. Kevin, they're going to be all by their lonesome in a few years. They're going to be like cranking out west, no UTEP, no nothing. It's going to be weird how they're going to handle these next couple of years. But so far this season, who have they beaten? They've beaten SEMO. That's an FCS school, okay? They've beaten Louisiana Tech in a double overtime thriller. and that's it. They got blown out by Fresno. They oh my gosh, they let New Mexico hang 50 points on them. That was the same team that lost to, I believe, was it Montana State in week 0, and then they turn around and hung 50 on New Mexico State, which is absolutely diabolical. 54 points, back-to-back weeks of giving up over 100 points for the New Mexico. All this to say they're 2-5. This was a team that went to a bowl game last season, and it's been a terrible turn of events for this squad. And I think you and I are in agreement. The big reason for that is that this defense, this ain't it, Chief. Their defense is like competing with Middle Tennessee for the ultimate battle of mid, as far as yards allowed and touchdowns allowed and like everything allowed.
And I think
I also get bored when I start thinking about New Mexico State as well.
You have to cut that out, but yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I think those two teams still have to play each other, so it should be a pretty high scoring game if I think that they do play each other.
It's gonna make Maction look like SEC football.
Yeah, I guess so. And then obviously on defense, that team, yeah, they struggle. Tyler Martinez is their leading tackler. Then you have DeMarcus Crosby. But I mean, I think the one thing that needs to be noted, and I do want to go to the FIU defense real quick, if we're going to compare those really quick. You go to the leaders page on Conference USA's website. You put total tackles. You have Travion Barnes, number 1, JoJo Evans, number 2, Elijah Anderson Taylor, number 3, and then you go just a little bit lower to 11th. You have CJ Christian, and 12th is Jamal Potts. So FIU's taking over on the defensive side of things.
Yeah.
FIU's defense, obviously the better one going into this game. And I think FIU's offense is a lot better as well. The expectation is on the offensive side, by the way, for FIU is that Josiah does play. But New Mexico State's just not a good team, man. There's no other way to say it. It's hard for me to say that. I think it's hard for you to say because FIU's lost to an 0-6 team and an FCS team already this season, which not good. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little tough. It's a little tough to say they're bad, but they really are. There's no other way.
By the way, New Mexico State should have lost to an FCS team. That game against SEMO was in their grasp.
And SEMO's a good team this year, too. They're a really good team. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're good. I think FIU is the better team, and I think that will reflect on our predictions, except EA. But, yeah, we'll see what happens.
In 7 games so far, New Mexico State's defense has racked up 10 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles in 7.
That's the thing too. They've been able to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, they can't they can't turn the ball over worth a damn. And I'm sorry, I know we're bashing on New Mexico State. It's not like they have any social media presence to flame us if something happens. Like, well, they just got their Barstool account. I'm just saying.
The Barstool account is pretty wild.
The fact that we haven't found a New Mexico State pod yet is pretty nuts for the CUSA podcast roundtable.
Well, dude, Las Cruces is like as small as El Paso.
Yeah, but you have that big rivalry with UTEP that it is cool that they had a great rivalry because UTEP's bouncing to the Mountain West and New Mexico State's kind of in conference limbo right now because if they stay in Conference USA, what would be the closest school in CUSA to New Mexico State? It'd be Sam Houston.
Sam Houston.
And that's a super far distance. It's like, to be fair, it's like from here to Delaware, but still, there's a lot of schools closer to us than Delaware. Mexico State would have nothing. So New Mexico State's in a weird spot. Offensively, their passing game is not good. Just going to say that. Their passing game is not good, but their running game does kind of give me the heebie-jeebies, Kevin. They can look good at times. I don't know. 1,143 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. I'm actually curious, Kevin, how that ranks compared to the rest of the rushing offenses in CUSA, where New Mexico State currently is. Seth, you mentioned Seth McGowan. They're good. He's good. He's gonna be a threat. But if FIU can limit the running game similar to how they did against Sam Houston State, I think New Mexico State will get their yards, but still overall, I think they can put them at bay.
Yeah, Seth McGowan's 5th in the conference in rushing yards with 448. And aside from that, overall, they're the 4th best rushing offense in CUSA. Obviously, FIU, I think, 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
I will confirm that now.
I believe
8th. Yeah, 8th. So, yeah, I mean, New Mexico State, I think that if they're looking at the FIU defense, they're going to say Seth McGowan and James Washington need to have themselves a very big game. So, I think that's just the mentality they're kind of going with. And it's Mike Washington, not James Washington. I'm thinking of an NFL player named James Washington, but
Okay.
Mike Washington, that's his name, and he's pretty damn good too. So a little disrespect to him on my end, but that's a good rush defense. They do a lot of rush offense. I'm sorry, they do a lot of the same things they still did with Pavia. That's what Coach McIntyre was saying in his press conference. So we'll see. I mean, this is a team that ran the ball well. They ran the ball well, very, very well against FIU last year in Las Cruces. It was a very close game up until the end. So I'm excited. This was the game, if you remember, that I don't know if it wasn't a targeting. This was the game that Coach Mac blew the hell up. You remember that?
Yeah.
The game, they even made memes about Coach Mac blowing
up.
Yes.
It
was the game it was that first time Kiwan had ever gotten knocked out of a game, and I won't forget that. And I think that those players aren't going to forget that either, especially Kiwan. And I'm going to look for that after the podcast.
I should probably mention this later, but I have a hot take for this game, Kevin. Something crazy. There will not be a missed deep shot from Jenkins to Eric Rivers. There will not be one. Well, Jenkins will throw the ball deep to Rivers, and it'll be caught.
There's
first try. Mark my words.
That's the thing, man. There's always once a game that drop pass happens. I don't think it'll be any different.
Why does it happen? I mean, Eric Rivers, I think, could be the best shot at a wide receiver one for FIU. He's great, but just why is it such a guarantee that that's going to happen once per week? But that's my hot take. It's not going to happen. Here's another hot take, and I think you and I both feel confident about this. This is the game for FIU to get their 100-yard rusher. Out of any defense to go against this season, this is the one where FIU can finally get that 100-yard rusher. And honestly,
this is literally the one. Yeah, literally the one.
They better do it too. I'm just going to say it right now. They better against that defense. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot much more to say about New Mexico State, Kevin. They're just kind of in no man's land in Conference USA. They don't have a lot of high hopes for the future right now. They're and even logistically, they might be in Conference USA hell, being so separated from everyone else. That I can already imagine that New Mexico State to Delaware flight. Whew, it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
So let's introduce our guest to the show. It is none other than Adam Young, the voice of the New Mexico State Aggies. No, Johnny was going crazy when I talked about it. He was like, I know Adam Young.
Let's be honest here, Jake. We haven't recorded with Adam Young. So it is a wild card if Jonathan Mayer will be on that or not.
I guess he knows him. He's a fan. This isn't our first time we've had the voice of the team on. We had Adam Jacksa for Central Michigan on, and he was an awesome guest. And I'm excited to welcome in Adam Young. Obviously, very knowledgeable about the Aggies. Can get us some good insider information. I'm hoping, because I'm going to be honest, that presser for New Mexico State, that was not it, Chief. So I'm hoping Adam Young can give us some better insight on what to expect from the Aggies. So let's introduce him here. Let's hear from Adam Young. All right. Hey, everybody. We hope you're enjoying the episode of the Paws Up preview so far between FIU and New Mexico State. Now it's time to get into our opponent this week, the New Mexico State Aggies. So I'd like to introduce Adam Young, the voice of the New Mexico State Aggies, onto the preview. Adam, how are you doing?
Guys, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to Tuesday.
Yeah, let's just get right into it here, Adam. Kind of a polarizing season so far for the Aggies, but all things considered, it's the first season for Tony Sanchez as the head coach of New Mexico State. Just talk a bit about what you've seen him as far as recruiting, as far as motivating the team after every game, even when it hasn't necessarily gone the Aggies' way.
Yeah, it's been tough. I think a large part of it is so many transfers in the offseason, especially after spring ball. Which made it tough. It's the fifth most FBS transfer portal crew in the country. And there's a lot of new pieces. It's taken some time to get things to kind of click and mesh. Mm-hmm. They suffered a close loss in game 2 against Liberty. I think if you win that one, things go probably completely different. But they lost that one down the stretch. It's a game they probably should have won. They were up 9 with about 4 minutes left. So that one was tough and, kind of snowballed from there. Getting the win against Louisiana Tech 2 weeks ago was huge, going into kind of the tail end of the schedule. There's a lot of winnable games left on the schedule. A bowl game is still a possibility, but they pretty much have to take care of business against the rest of their Conference USA opponents because they have Texas A&M left in the schedule. So
I know.
their goals are still in front of them as far as the bowl game is concerned, but they have to build off the win 2 weeks ago against La Tech.
Definitely an unfortunate scenario where you're fighting to get into bowl eligibility and you have to go to Kyle Field on November 16th. That's rough. But like you had mentioned, currently with the 2-5 record, there were a couple of really close games that lost to New Mexico. Could have gone either way. Of course, you mentioned the Liberty game. All things considered, did you kind of expect New Mexico State to struggle the way they have, like a 2-5 record? Is that kind of how you saw the season beginning? Personally, did you think they'd be a little bit better or maybe even a little worse?
It was hard to predict. So many transfers. I'm sure well known around the country how many transfers went to Vanderbilt, how many transfers went to the Power 4 level in general. It was a really good football team last year. And when you're really good in this era, your players are going to get poached from other schools. That's just how it goes. Coaches as well. It's pretty much an entirely new coaching staff. So there was so much newness around the program going into the year. It was hard to predict. Then again, the program was coming off 17 wins combined the last 2 years, back-to-back bowl games. Mm-hmm. So expectations were still very high, and Tony Sanchez has high expectations as well. So it was hard to predict going into the year. But the biggest issue has been quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into that. They feel like maybe they found a quarterback against La Tech last game. Brandon Nunez came in, played extremely well late in the fourth quarter and in overtime. So I don't think they were just missing one piece, but one piece could change a lot of things. And Brandon Nunez appears to be that piece. So they were playing well in certain areas, but the quarterback play just wasn't good enough to win football games. They got better quarterback play late against the Bulldogs, and they got a win. So if Brandon Nunez can play anything like that the rest of the way, they're going to have some success here down the stretch.
So funny enough that wasn't going to be our next question about the quarterback situation. I believe Deuce Hogan was going to be the guy. I think he got injured, and then you guys have had some sort of rotation with Santino Marucci, Parker Awad, and obviously you recently mentioned him, Brandon Nunez. Just talk about those guys, and who do you see being the starter on a Tuesday night at Pitbull Stadium?
Well, I'll bring up the transfer portal again because Diego Pavia is a Heisman candidate, and he was the starting quarterback last year. The backup last year was Blaise Berlowitz. He's at Vanderbilt as well. The third string last year, Gavin Frakes, is at Virginia. So this is an entirely new quarterback room, guys. And going into the season, it was a battle between Parker Awad and Deuce Hogan before the first game. Awad got the nod, didn't play very well. Hogan played a little bit the first couple of games, injured his collarbone, so he's out for the year. Santino Marucci is a transfer from Wake Forest, but he did not arrive until the summer. So they were trying to get him up to speed as quick as they could. It took a couple of weeks into the season before he felt comfortable. They felt comfortable playing him. He was starting, but he was in concussion protocol at the end of Jacksonville State 2 games ago, and then last game against La Tech. So they started Awad again, and then Brandon Nunez was the fourth stringer at one point.
Yeah.
Nunez gets his first crack against La Tech, and he looked like a high-level FBS quarterback. So he had it practiced well for a while, practiced really well the week going into La Tech. They played him. He looked great. Things are clicking, and if he plays like that, they're going to win some football games down the stretch. So hopefully that quarterback situation is figured out. Tony Sanchez hasn't announced yet that Nunez is going to start. I would assume he would, but don't be surprised if Marucci, who's now available again after going through concussion protocol, doesn't play a little bit. I mean, Marucci was starting to play pretty well. And so now they feel like they have 2 quarterbacks that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah. So looking, obviously, I think it kind of stems from the quarterback issue, but wide receiver, at least the pass game hasn't been what you guys expected.
Yeah.
Obviously, that does happen with the quarterback situation. They just talk about the struggles on that end, and obviously what has been working for you guys, which is the run game, 4th best in Conference USA. Seth McGowan and Washington have been really good for you guys. 2 big backs. I would say some of the biggest backs I've seen in the conference in a while. So just talk about what has been working for them, and then obviously the wide receiver situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tony Sanchez is really high on his running backs. McGowan's really good. Mike Washington has just kind of tapped his potential. I mean, he could have a breakout game as well. Monte Watkins is a big play threat who's been a big play guy the last 2 years in the program. He was going through concussion protocol. We'll see if he's available this week. They're starting to get some guys healthy, which is really, really good. The biggest change for them in the La Tech game was Shiaz Pete, who they feel like is an NFL left tackle who's been the starter the last 2 years. He had been out all year with an ankle injury. He returned against La Tech. So they finally had their entire offensive line that they had going into the year healthy for the first time. I think that's been a big reason why there's been some quarterback struggles, not a lot of time to throw, and there's wide receiver struggles. Because of that, you don't run as effectively. So they finally have a healthy offensive line group. The quarterback situation is starting to get figured out. The wide receivers will look a lot better in the fourth quarter against La Tech. So hopefully we'll see. We'll see if this offense can start to click. But in my opinion, it all starts with the offensive line, which is finally healthy.
And then looking at the defensive side of things, I think Jake and I could attest to this. Just with struggles stopping the run, definitely seems like you guys have had that as well. Dead last in the conference in rush defense. Just what hasn't been working? Maybe is it maybe due to injuries, or just now maybe at this towards the final stretch of the season? Maybe that's kind of getting it going a little bit. Maybe stopping the run a little better.
That's a good question. They haven't tackled very well, and they finally tackled better against La Tech. They tackled really good the first 7 quarters of the season. They opened up with SEMO. SEMO's a top 10 FCS program, and then Liberty, which, last year was one of the better running teams in the country with those guys back. They stopped the run against Liberty the first 3 quarters. Then they started to not tackle well. They've had a couple of key injuries on the defensive line. One of those guys could be back this game, Buda Paletti, who was a great player a year ago and was having a good year before getting injured. So that's probably playing a role as well. They have to tackle better, which they did against La Tech. It wasn't perfect, but they were tackling better. Explosion plays have been a big problem. And then I think part of it, too, is Conference USA has a lot of really good running quarterbacks. Sam Houston does. Caden Salter can scoot a little bit as well. Those two kind of come to mind, Jacksonville State. So that's been part of the numbers as well.
And moving on a bit, talking about the defense a bit more, something I've noticed with the Aggies is their inability to create turnovers. I believe they only have either 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. That could be reversed. But overall, talking a bit about their secondary and some of the explosive plays they've led up this season, like I mentioned, not being able to turn the ball over.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's been an issue. Also, getting after the quarterback was an issue for a while, and they really ramped up the pressure against Louisiana Tech last game. Cale Edwards, a defensive end, had 4 sacks in the game, and that was key for Joe Morris, the defensive coordinator, the former Sam Houston DC, who's in his first year with the Aggie program in that role. But takeaways have been a problem. Josiah Cox had 2 interceptions against Sam Houston, but even in that game, we had a player, Nick Session, who had a ball go right through his hands to start the game, first play of the game, that would have gone for a pick 6. So they need to create some turnovers. They've done a pretty good job, I think, of limiting turnovers on offense for the most part, but they need to find a way to create some turnovers. That was a big part of what they did a year ago, guys. They found a way to get takeaways, and they haven't been able to do that this year.
All right. Kevin and I were blown away at the 10 and a hook line for FIU at home against the Aggies. I'm still kind of shocked. So I'll ask you this, Adam. What would you say is the biggest key to success for New Mexico State? What do they have to do right to walk into Pitbull Stadium and get a much needed win?
Win the turnover battle. That's going to be key. Limit explosion plays on defense, which has been a problem at times, and then get good quarterback play. And for the first time in a long time, I think the fan base is excited going into a game about the quarterback play. If Brandon Nunez can play anything like he did late in the fourth quarter and in overtime against La Tech, they have something. I mean, he made big play after big play. He's a big quarterback, guys. He's 6'5". He's about 230 pounds. And you have to respect the arm, and you have to respect the run. And if he's able to run with 2 running backs alongside him, it's hard to figure out where the football is going. So I think their run game is really going to improve with Nunez. They are not predictable anymore offensively, but Nunez hasn't played a full game yet. So that's to be determined as far as that goes. But if they can get better quarterback play, like I said earlier, they're going to win some games down the stretch. They have really, I think, 3 really winnable games left. A fourth against WKU that's going to be really tough, but it's at home. And, us media folks, we're starting to think ahead. If they can get FIU Tuesday, they got 3 wins, the WKU game coming up, Middle Tennessee and UTEP left on the schedule. So, who knows? Crazier things have happened. They kind of backdoored their way in 2 years ago with 6. So it's possible, but they have to prove, I think, for a back-to-back stretch, going back to that La Tech game, back-to-back games where they play well to, feel like they can get on a run here.
Real quick here before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the current state of Conference USA? I know you have Missouri State and Delaware popping in, but now UTEP's your big rival and like very close to you. It's a big rivalry there, moving the Mountain West, and New Mexico State might be in conference limbo, being all the way out west with a bunch of Eastern schools. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you want New Mexico State to move, and if so, where should they head to?
Yeah, limbo because of travel, but I think everything else is great. I think New Mexico State's very happy with Conference USA. You guys have to keep in mind, too, that for a while there, New Mexico State was independent in football.
Yeah.
So we lived through that. That was tough. The schedule was all over the place. Played Liberty twice in football, multiple years. You had home and homes with teams. And so they're thrilled to be in Conference USA. It's a great league. The league office, Judy McLeod, they do a great job. It's unfortunate that, you get in the same league as UTEP for the first time in forever, and then they're going to leave to go to the Mountain West. But they've also been in Conference USA for 20 years. So they've been in this league for a while. I love the league overall. I do all of our sports, so I get to kind of see it across the board. The travel isn't great, but, the travel isn't great in a lot of conferences. It's worse in the leagues. So it is what it is as far as the travel. I'm excited about Missouri State. I'm actually from the Midwest. I'm from St. Louis. I'm very familiar with Missouri State and what they can be in a lot of sports. Their football program's having a really good year. And basketball historically there is really good. Don't know a ton about Delaware. I know historically their football program's good. So, I love this league and what they've done. And I know New Mexico State fans, it's hard to complain because it was a good while there where they were independent in football and really searching for a league. And now you have a home that you can be proud of.
Okay, Adam, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, man. If you can drop your socials so that fans can follow your work and see how the Aggies are personally preparing for this matchup against FIU.
Absolutely, guys. At Young PBP, so like play-by-play on all social media. Try to produce as much content as possible, especially on Twitter. So I appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to Tuesday, and then we finally go back to the weekends. No more midweek football after this week.
I'm starting to get really happy about that too. Yeah. I know Kevin is as well.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the Paws Up preview as Kevin and I go over what to expect from FIU athletics this week in CUSA and game picks. All righty, that was Adam Young. Be sure to follow his work, and obviously he does some great stuff with New Mexico State athletics, which you can check out on their platforms. Any final thoughts about this game, Kevin? It's weird. We haven't really felt confident about an FIU win since arguably that UTEP game when they let us down. I mean, they were in the Sun Bowl. There was a chance they would have lost, and we kind of thought that. As far as a game where we felt like near 100% that FIU should win, I think this might be the sole one. Maybe Monmouth, and again, they let us down for that.
Yeah, Monmouth. I felt pretty good about FAU too.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all we can really say. I mean, we're just hoping for a great outcome, and they're gonna have the Sunblazer thing on their helmets. Is there a confirmed giveaway, by the way? I'm not certain. This was recorded the Saturday before the game, so
I should know this, and I don't think there's a giveaway. There may be a Sunblazer T-shirt. I'm not sure.
FIU has done a good job this season giving giveaways for like every single game so far. So
yeah, they have.
We'll see. All right, let's get into a roundup of FIU events going on with none other than where is it? Here it is. Around FIU athletics. I promise this isn't gonna be as long as the one we did with our most recent guest. Spoiler alert. But let's get right into it, fellas. let's start off with men's soccer. Again, this was recorded on October the 26th. So at this moment, soccer has a 4-5-5 record following a draw against Temple on the road in Philadelphia. So they're going to be taking on Memphis in the alumni weekend and senior night. That's on Friday, November the 1st at 7 p.m. We're already getting to November. Oof, 2024 flying by. Then we get into the AAC Championship tournament on Friday, November the 8th to Saturday, November the 16th. So, of course, best of luck to the Panthers and how they do there. Women's soccer currently has an 11-4 record as they are most recently coming off a 2-0 shutout win against the UTEP Miners. That was that rescheduled game. So we'll see how they did against Western Kentucky tomorrow on Sunday. But the upcoming game is going to be Jacksonville State, the final game of the regular season at Leyva Family Field on Thursday, October the 31st at 7. And, of course, they're going to host the Conference USA Tournament Wednesday, November the 6th to Sunday, November the 10th. Best of luck to the Panthers. Do a quick checkup on indoor volleyball. They have a 3-20 record. They're coming off a win and loss to Kennesaw State. They're going to be taking on the Liberty Flames on the same day as New Mexico State on Tuesday at noon. So if you wanted to do a doubleheader, you certainly could. Then they'll take on Liberty again on Wednesday, October the 30th at 2 p.m. Both these games are at the bank. And they're also on ESPN+. And then we're getting awfully close to the start of the men's basketball and women's basketball season. The first game for men's basketball is on Tuesday, November the 5th at 7 o'clock against Rice. That's a road game in Houston on ESPN+. And then for women's basketball, it's a contest on Monday, November the 4th at 7 o'clock against Florida National at the bank. That's also on ESPN+. That starts a 3-game homestand, by the way. So that is it for FIU athletics. So let's get into some interesting predictions here. It's this week in CUSA. Let's pull up the schedule and see how we did here, Kevin.
500, maybe.
Sometimes it's tough. It's tough to decipher what the hell is going to happen. So let's see what happened. Sam Houston State beat FIU 10-7. We know this. We were there. Low-scoring game. Felt like some quality action, but still. Louisiana Tech barely survived UTEP. Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, UTEP was winning in this game. I think at halftime, and then Louisiana Tech came back and just barely won again in Ruston.
I guess so.
Yeah. So, and then, okay. So something happened in Kennesaw. Moving on now to the next game. Liberty's taking on Kennesaw State.
We can move on.
Let's just get Liberty. Yeah.
You didn't tell me you were putting that.
They not only rushed the field once, they rushed the field twice.
No, I did watch that whole game, by the way. That was
I watched the majority of it, and
good for them, man.
Good for them. I mean, their defense pretty much gave Caden Salter a whooping. Their defense looked great. Their offense, led by who is the starting quarterback for
Daly Bryson.
He looked good. I know Kennesaw's kind of been through some QB hell this season, but he looked pretty good. And I mean, just shout out Kennesaw. Not only did they get their first win as a member of FBS, their first win against an FBS team ever. It was against the undefeated Liberty Games, who haven't lost a regular season game since like 2022. I mean, you couldn't pick a better team for Kennesaw to win their first game against than Liberty, and it actually happened.
I love it. It was a good day for the USA. That's all I'm going to say. And
then Jack State blew out Middle Tennessee. That's not surprising. 42-20. I don't think anyone, it is what it is. So how did we do with this week? Let's see here. I have it here.
2-2.
I went 3-1. Kevin, you went 2-2. Obviously, we both had Liberty over Kennesaw. Because come on, who's not going to take Liberty in that game? And then you also took FIU over Sam Houston. So, I mean, I'll give you credit for picking the good team, but
I was very close with FIU. It could have gone 4-0.
That was like a split-second decision, if I'm not mistaken, to go with the Panthers there.
I was going to choose Sam Houston.
You were wearing the sunglasses when you picked it, so that must have helped you do that. Anyway, I currently have a season standing of 40-14. Kevin has a season standing of 34-20. So you still have some ground to make up here. So we'll see what happens here as we get into Week 10. There's 5 games, Kevin, and not to mention the bottom game, Middle Tennessee and UTEP. That's the Saturday game. After that game, we're back to full-on Saturday football in Conference USA.
Yes.
And look at how nice this is. Every single Conference USA team in action this week. That's kind of neat. So
first time in a while, right?
Yeah, it's been like has happened. It's like the first week, I want to say. So anyway, obviously we'll save FIU for last. Let's start off with Louisiana Tech and Sam Houston. That's on Tuesday, October the 29th at 8:00 over in Huntsville. No, I mean, we'll see who's the quarterback for Sam Houston.
It's going to be Hunter Watson.
If it's Hunter Watson, I'm taking the Bearcats.
It will be Hunter Watson. Give me Sam Houston.
Okay, good. Moving on to Wednesday night football, you have, oh my gosh, this is going to be a good one. Jacksonville State and Liberty and Lynchburg. I'm telling you right now, I am aboard the Liberty hate train right now. I'm sorry. I'm aboard the Liberty. Not only am I aboard the Liberty hate train, I'm on the Jacksonville State hype train. Give me Jacksonville State with an impressive road win.
I want Jacksonville State to win because that means they would have poured their heart and soul into that game to beat Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
That means FIU has a good chance of beating them. So give me Jacksonville State. And
I
am going to be present. And I need to get a road win. I'm 0-1 on the road this season. So are you. I need to at least finish 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
I know I need to finish 2-1 because if I lose another game on the road, that means I'm going to be
It means you're going to be a curse for this.
No, not a curse, because they haven't won a road game this year. And they haven't won one dating back to the Sam Houston game last year. So no curse, but I am maybe the light that they need to win.
Also on Wednesday night, Kennesaw is taking on Western Kentucky at 7:30. Now listen. I love what I saw from Kennesaw, but I think Western Kentucky is a different beast, not to mention it's in Bowling Green. I'm sorry. Taking the Tops.
I do want to say something.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time ever of this podcast that we've both picked against Liberty.
Yeah, I think you're right. But listen, Kennesaw State did such a great job exposing the Flames that now we have all new insight on the problems of the Flames than we ever have before. Anyway, I'm going Western. How about you?
Man, I hope Kennesaw wins.
Because it would be fun.
It would be awesome. It would be super cool, actually. But you got to think about this. I'm going with Western Kentucky. But now, next week we do this again. Actually, we won't be doing it next week. In 2 weeks when we do it again, and you have to play this video if Kennesaw does win, we're going to look like idiots. But give me Western Kentucky.
Okay. And then closing off, we have Saturday football at what time is it? 3:30. You have Middle Tennessee taking on UTEP. Can either team win this? Is it just going to be like a 10,000 overtime game nobody wants to win because both offenses are doo-doo? And I don't know. But you know what? Just for the hell of it, give me UTEP. I think they'll have the boys ready to play in the Sun Bowl against a really mediocre Middle Tennessee team. So, I'll take UTEP.
Yeah, give me Middle Tennessee. UTEP is without their starter, Skylar Locklear, and I think McConnell's still out. So
that was a dirty hit, by the way.
That was a really bad hit. Yeah, I saw it. But we'll see what happens. Amari Kelly has been lighting it up on special teams and wide receiver and on offense, for Middle Tennessee. Nicholas Vadiato still leads the conference in passing yards, and they need to win in the worst way possible. So give me the Blue Raiders.
All right. I'm not mad about it. It can definitely go either way. So
sorry, Scotty.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, Kevin, it is time to ask one more, I'd say pretty big question here. How about who will win? The ultimate question asked here on the show. Now, before we start, let's see what the boys at EA Sports and college football. Yeah, Kevin, you already know. We already know what happened. I don't think you guys are going to like it either. Take a look.
Scoreboard operator got a workout in this one. Fun game for us to watch, but they can't come up with a W.
Yeah, and it's a team game, right? The offense did their job, and now defense will have to find a way in the future to make better plays, get stops, and stop them scoring so many points, especially when your offense does their job.
And we see a lot of games like this in college football.
Damn it. What do you think? What are you doing, EA? What are you doing? I didn't like that at all.
They had Parker Awad popping off.
Yeah, I know. Keywan Jenkins, 22 for 41, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no pick. That's not a bad night for him.
Pretty damn good night. Yeah.
Yeah. Flex had 102 yards. Now we're talking. I like that. EA was cooking, except for what they did with New Mexico State. Like you mentioned, Awad had a Heisman-worthy game. 398 yards off of 24 completions, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. But still, I don't think it's going to be that high scoring, Kevin.
So, well, I saw your prediction on the preview. So,
I think
you do think they'll be pretty high scoring.
Let's just see what you think, Kevin. Who's going to win this game, FIU or New Mexico State?
Yeah, give me FIU. I think I made that pretty obvious. And my score will be 24-17.
Wow, that's really close.
It's FIU. Who knows?
I know, but listen. We need to see a blowout win. We are desperate for a impressive smash mouth football style game from the Panthers that we saw against Central Michigan and we just haven't seen again. And I think New Mexico State's the team to do it against. Listen, if FIU can establish the run game early, that's wraps for New Mexico State. They can't force turnovers. They can't do squat. FIU's offense needs to play. Well, they need to play lights out.
Lights out! Lights out!
Good one.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, listen, FIU has a 2-2 record at home, right? That's disappointing. The competition has not been great, and it's still been a 2-2 record. They need that marquee win that, like I said, it builds momentum towards that upcoming road trip, and you can't disappoint, Kevin. You can't disappoint the man traveling with the team. You need a solid performance on the road, and that starts with a good home win. So give me the Panthers by a score of 38-13. And I already made my bold prediction, Kevin. We're going to see no Jenkins to Rivers incompletions deep. And I think we're both in agreement that we're going to see our 100-yard rusher. Even EA agrees so.
Yeah, give me Flex Joseph with an 100-yard game.
You think Flex? I think Flex. Everyone thinks Flex is going to do it. So, all righty, Panthers. Again, season hasn't gone our way, but it's time to get hyped because we have our final home game in a while. We're not going to get another home game until the final game of the season. So, pack Pitbull Stadium. Wear your Sunblazer gear if you have some. And let's just watch some damn good FIU football. We're all dying for it. And I personally think we're going to see it happen. So, Kevin, any final thoughts before we wrap up? How excited are you to visit Jacksonville, Alabama? What even is there to do in Jacksonville, Alabama?
I don't know. I saw some pretty nice restaurants, so we'll see. I'm more excited, obviously, about the
Atlanta,
the Kennesaw one. But
I mean, listen, they have.
Let me be honest with you. I am extremely excited for both of them. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, I will say this: the field design, and by the time this is out, the field design's out. I think this field design tops the Vice Night one. That's all I'm going to tell you, Jake.
Ooh, you got me excited. I don't know. I don't know what it is at the time of recording. I don't know what it is. So I'm excited now. Listen, if Messi can approve Kennesaw, Georgia as a place to practice, which he did for, I think, some sort of match, then you know what? I think you'll enjoy Kennesaw, Kevin. But we'll get to that on another day. So, all righty, everybody. Enjoy the game. It's at 7 o'clock, CBS Sports Network if you can't make it. And it's also going to be the last midweek game of the season. So maybe you can be happy or sad about that, but still, it's going to be the last home game in a hot minute. So go support the Panthers, pack the cage, and until next time, Paws!
Let's go!